Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. I wanted to talk a little bit about this massive trend that seemed to come from out of nowhere, this Pokemon Go. So I watched a few news stories on this latest trend and watching the way people are reacting to Pokemon Go and what they're doing. And I couldn't help but just shake my head. This is just another clear example of massive mind control. It's also signaling something from a video I just did recently on the coming post-human world, because we really are at a crossroads right now. There was once a time where we controlled the technology, but we're literally on the precipice of technology controlling us. So I've never really looked much into Pokemon, and I never played the game or anything, but I remember this story from some years back. It was the banned Pokemon episode that gave children seizures. The animators used a rapidly strobing type technique, and it flashed red and blue lights on the screen. As soon as I saw the red and the blue involved here, it got me thinking of something else. Because this wouldn't be the first time that the colors red and blue were associated in one form or another with mind control. On the color wheel, red and blue aren't even connected together. They're actually opposed to one another. And colors do have a massive impact on our psyche. In a very basic sense, red excites and blue calms. Specifically going back to the article I was just showing you on the mind control they used in Pokemon, the red and the blue, the flashing images. So now you can imagine a child watching one of these animated shows where they take the red and the blue and they flicker them. It's a flicker rate. They start doing it really quick. These children's minds are still developing. They make them the perfect targets for these forms of mind control. A child will just sit there stunned, staring at the screen, while the red and the blue flicker, flicker, flicker. What's interesting to me about symbolism is that oftentimes there's multiple meanings to these symbols and these color codes. I've covered the red and the blue in the past in other videos, how often we see it. The color code of red and blue is really all around us, and I know you guys see it all the time as well. So in that respect, isn't it interesting just how much of this red and blue mind control that we see all around us, specifically in our entertainment, our media? In one respect, I see it spiritually as choosing which side are you on. And of course, the red and the blue can be traced back to the Masons, back to the Lodge. So once again, isn't it interesting that we find red and blue, these diametrically opposed colors that can be used for a form of mind control, being the primary colors of Freemasonry. And of course we find the red and the blue, right, with royalty, with the Queen. And that's a pretty famous picture, at least in our community of investigators and looking into this kind of stuff, but that's the belt buckle right there on the lady in blue that's shaking hands with the Queen in red. In case you weren't sure of the occult connections there. And then of course, what do you get with the red and the blue, but you get the purple. And then of course in the occult studies, the purple goes back to Saturn. Saturn is Satan. One thing people rarely do is read the bottom line, read the print, read any of this stuff. And I'm mainly talking about privacy policies that come along with a lot of these apps and stuff like that. This right here is part of Pokemon Go's policy, and check this out. We cooperate with government and law enforcement officials or private parties to enforce and comply with the law. Check this. We may disclose any information about you or your authorized child that is in our possession or control to government or law enforcement officials or private parties as we, in our sole discretion, believe necessary or appropriate. A, to respond to claims, legal process, subpoenas, to protect our property rights and safety, etc. Safety of a third party or the public in general, and to identify and stop any activity that we consider illegal, unethical, or legally actionable activity. Reading that and considering what you're giving to Pokemon Go, you're literally giving them access to your immediate location and your camera. You're also giving them full access to your Google account, assuming that's what you've used to sign in. But legally, they've got you, because they put it right here in print. It reminds me of some of YouTube's newer policies. We're seeing so many more videos over the last year or so getting removed from YouTube because they don't fall within community guidelines. And if you read their fine print, it's just like this, essentially giving Google, YouTube all the power. and they get to decide at their discretion, the company's discretion. And there are connections to the CIA when you start looking into this. For instance, Pokemon Go was actually created by a company called Niantic, and this is one of their symbols. And of course, we see the rings around Saturn symbolically. And Niantic Labs was formed by John Hanke. So John Hanke had founded a company called Keyhole, and Keyhole was acquired by Google back in 2004. Now, Keyhole received funding from a firm called In-Q-Tel. It's a government-controlled venture capital firm that invests in companies that will help beef up Big Brother's tool belt. And what's more, the funds In-Q-Tel gave Keyhole mostly came from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, whose primary mission is, quote, collecting, analyzing, and distributing geospatial intelligence. Now here's an excerpt from an in-house publication from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Data is king. All hail big data. At first glance, a big data solution may appear to be a silver bullet for an organization's needs. Certainly, many sectors have urgent requirements that can be addressed with big data. Companies obtain customer information through avenues such as social media, mobile apps, and customer relationship management software. Government agencies, such as the NGIA, increasingly use big data analysis to derive meaning from the exponentially growing volume of data related to their missions. The main point of showing you some of this is so you understand just how entrenched the government is behind some of these things that seem so innocuous as a Pokemon app. And now we come to the effects it has on the public. I've been into this kind of research for so many years now that I've got to the point I don't like using the terms sheep for the general populace that's still asleep. Zombies, that's also another really popular term. Sometimes you just got to call it what it is. And that's what all these stupid trends really do. They expose the zombies in our society. They expose the sheep or the sheeple in our society in many ways. This right here, of course, was called planking. You've probably seen this. One of those really dumb trends, right? That seemed to come from out of nowhere, and suddenly it took the world by storm. Everybody's planking, essentially acting like they're dead. And who can forget the ridiculously retarded Kylie Jenner challenge, leaving teens' lips bruised and swollen? Of course, there was the dangerously dumb Cinnamon Challenge. Also, something else to note about all of these trends, these goofball trends that seem to just take over right from out of nowhere. But something else to acknowledge about these is people do get hurt. So in all of these cases, there are people actually getting hurt doing these dumb challenges or following these so-called trends. And it's the same thing with Pokemon Go. On one level, Pokemon Go is just the newest goofball trend that seems to be not only sweeping the nation, but the planet. There's people all over the world who are playing this game. It's also a huge red flag. There have already been some people hurt playing this game. If you look at the possible implications of the game itself, it's rather frightening. As I said earlier, this really is a subject I'd covered before. A lot of other people have covered this as well. It's where we're at with technology, how technology is slowly starting to take over us. And all of these so-called challenges, or what I like to call them New World Order trends, people are getting hurt. And Pokemon Go is no different. It really does show you the merging of technology and humanity. So while these people are running around in the real world, they're still focused on their phones. And they're playing the game. There's an option in this game that's called placing a lure, I believe, where you can essentially put your own little Pokemon creature anywhere you want in the world, anywhere, at any time, and then people will come out and try to find it and collect it or fight it or whatever they do. So just think about that. I mean, anybody out there can place one of these lures on the game at any time of day. How about a secluded parking lot at midnight or somewhere out in the woods at 1 a.m.? I'm just saying these are very real possibilities, and I have no doubt we're going to see some of this stuff crop up. It's also an incredible distraction. And that's another way I believe they use a lot of these psychological operations. In the last 8 years, we've had more mass killings and shootings than any other time in American history. And just over the last few years, it's really picked up. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Every week there seems to be more shootings, right? More chaos. And this system, the Illuminati, if you will, they are creating this chaos. It will be order out of chaos. They want martial law. They want full control. They do want to take your guns. And these are very serious issues that are happening right now. So while all these very serious issues are taking place, and there's chaos breaking out all around the world, and we're literally on the verge of World War III, we have millions of people all around the world who are focused on Pokemon. They're running around with their phones and they're trying to capture little virtual creatures and play games, while their entire world is falling apart around them. So that's all I have for you folks. Thank you very much for checking out the video. Take care out there, and I'll talk to you real soon.